Well, hey there, out in Facebook land. I linked the blog. Let me just double check here. Oh, I sure did. I sure did. Okay, so tonight I'm going to start with funny story. And I don't know, I think of random things all the time, like super random. Like, I'm one of those people that seriously, in like a span of 5 seconds, I can go from like hiring somebody to lay concrete to ingredients of a cupcake, and how I got there is just completely different things, or thinking about like a cupcake I ate when I was 12 years old. Like, seriously, my thought process is just it's jacked up. It really is. Anyway, so sometimes, and I have been told I don't come across this way, so I'm super nervous doing these Facebook Lives, mainly because I have anxiety and a huge fear of being judged. So I know you guys can't see it, but I sweat like a man that just ran a marathon when I'm doing these. I know, super attractive. Anyway, so kind of how I got there, talking about my sweating, is I have to kind of mentally pump myself up to do these before I come on. So sometimes I'll think of like how I want to come in and say things, or, preparing myself for questions I might get answered. Anything that I think about never happens. I never say the things that I think about, and I'll replay like entire conversations in my head for these lives. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's so stupid, but it's what I do. Anyway, so I was thinking earlier, and actually see that my mom is on here, so she's going to enjoy this story. So I have a tagline, and my tagline is "Health starts from within." And it truly does. Health starts on the inside. You can have an okay appearance on the outside, but if things are kind of crumbling apart on the inside, it's going to eventually show up on the outside. And if you start to feel good and repair the inside, what's going on, getting your metabolic processes to work a little bit better, it's going to show on the outside. We're going to lose weight. We're going to have clearer skin. Our hairs and our nails are going to be thicker and stronger. Anyway, so that's my tagline, is health starts from within. And I was thinking today that I used to use it a lot, and I don't really use it that much anymore. And I really don't know why. Well, that was a lie. I do know why. But I need to get back to it. So as I was thinking earlier about taglines, I was thinking about all of the interesting taglines that I have heard of throughout the years. And there's two that really stuck in my mind. One you guys are never going to know of. And then the other one is one that you might have, especially if you were, in your 20s or 30s in the 80s, early 90s, or you were a child, like a teen or something like that in the late 80s, early 90s, enough to kind of be aware what was going on around you. There's a good chance you'll know the second one. Anyway, so growing up, I kind of lived all over the place. Hey, Jackie. I kind of lived all over the place. And one of the places that I lived was Iowa. And when I say Iowa, like, it is like stereotypical Iowa, like cornfields. I remember like in the wintertime getting pulled behind a four-wheeler on a saucer that you would go downhill sledding on through cow shit. And we thought it was fun. Like, it was a blast. You're hanging on the back, you're in your snowsuit, somebody's like kicking, cow dung in your face, and you're zooming all over the field, and it was amazing. So very stereotypical Iowa, where I spent a few years. And my stepdad there had a business. So he was a welder, and he owned his own welding company. And so his tagline was, "Pinch that penny, call Denny." His name is Den, or Dennis, or Denny. And so anyway, I was thinking about that tagline today, and I don't know why that tagline popped into my head, and it made me think about my failure to use my own tagline over the last few years. And so then it got me thinking about other taglines. And so the other prominent one that I recall when I was a kid was, my parents were huge into Amway. And so Amway, I remember my mom had in her bathroom, you would walk into her bathroom, and on the mirror was this red circle. It was kind of taped to it, and it said, get around to it. And so it was kind of motivating to get get her to get around to things. I understood the concept. But anyway, I thought that was funny. So pinch that penny, call Denny, and get around to it. So I hopefully will remember, that's the big part for me, remember to utilize my tagline more often, which is health starts from within. So anyway, stupid story, but I got that out of the way. And yes, I am sweating profusely already. For those of you just joining me for the very first time, my name is Sunny Brigham. I'm a board-certified clinical and integrative nutritionist. I have a master's of science in clinical nutrition, and I own and operate my own practice here in the North Texas area. Although I do see clients nationwide, I do it via a secure video conferencing system that I have, so it is HIPAA compliant, and I'm doing this because my palms are sweaty. Sorry, I'm super fidgety. Anyway, I promise I didn't do speed or Coke before I started this. I'm just super chatty tonight for some reason. Anywho, great segue from nutrition to speed or Coke. Anywho, that's how my mind thinks. So tonight, we are going to talk about protein powders. It's a common thing that I hear from clients, my own clients, is when we start talking about like increasing protein or getting the amount of protein in that they need, typically the conversation will segue to protein powders. And it can be super, 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 super confusing because, I mean, all you have to do is walk into the protein powder aisle and it's just like a massive wall of options, and sometimes too many options is worse than just a couple of options to choose from. So I'm going to go through. We're going to talk a little bit about protein needs, protein requirements, how we get to those, and how you can figure out your own protein needs and requirements. And then we're going to talk about what to look for in different protein powders. So how to choose a quality protein powder, because it's not necessarily price. A high price tag doesn't mean that it's a quality protein powder. I have a spot on my glasses that's totally throwing off my thought process here. You have to bear with me. And yes, I have to read them, or I have to wear them because I can't see now. It's a fun age thing. Let's see if that did the trick. Sure did. Okay. So so it's not high dollar price, or price tag doesn't always equal, very quality protein. So we're going to talk about things to look for in a protein powder to know whether or not it's a good quality protein powder. And then I will give you my top recommendations, both for omnivores and for vegans, the ones that I think are best, and I'll tell you why I think they are best. So let's get into this. And I put the blog in the header section. So if you haven't read it yet, I definitely would take a read later, but I have it up now because this is what I do, because I get it up so I can make sure that I hit all the high points for you guys. And as I'm sitting here thinking about protein, I'm thinking about Matthew and Madison. They went to get ice cream. So I'm here talking about health and nutrition while they're out stuffing their faces with ice cream. Go figure. And I think that's what the dogs are doing. That is always backwards. This little guy's right here is waiting for them to bring him back a doggy ice cream treat. I don't think they have those. Maybe they do. I don't know. Okay, so let's chat first about protein. I don't know. There's a few topics that really grind my gears, so to speak, and protein happens to be one of them. So a lot of you know this, a lot of you don't know this. I am a vegan, so and for some reason, people typically are concerned about vegans' protein intake. They really shouldn't be. All plants have a little bit of protein in it, and so as long as you're eating a nice, healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, you're going to put plenty of protein in through your day. And quite honestly, most meat eaters get way too much protein in their diet. And so I've linked a couple of studies in the blog, and I talk a little bit about the study. So I'm a big fan of systemic reviews. There are so many different types of studies out there. And I'm sure you guys have heard, you look on the news and one day eggs are bad, and then the next day eggs are amazing, and coconut oil is bad for you one day, and the next day it's amazing. And what do we do about saturated fat? And because those are clinical trials, or they're in vitro studies, meaning that they're in petri dishes or on animal studies. And so they're one-off studies, meaning that they're not compared to other studies. And so it's just in a very isolated moment or an isolated study. So now don't get me wrong, we need those. We need those types of studies. We need clinical trials. We need all of those things because those help paint the bigger picture, you know, of whether something is really good or something is really bad. And decisions should not be made off of individual studies. So you should not read a study that says coconut oil is horrible for your health off of one individual study and then stop consuming coconut oil, and vice versa. You shouldn't read, you know, a study that says coconut oil is amazing, eat up, have all that you want, and then go out and start consuming coconut oil. What you should be looking for is what's called a systemic review. A systemic review looks at all the studies related to one specific topic, and then they analyze each study. They throw out the ones that are bad, meaning the ones that were had kind of questionable funding, or the math was off, or it was too high of a confidence interval, or how they did it, there wasn't enough follow-up, or they didn't look at, you know, an X number of factors that they should have. So anyway, they'll throw out the bad studies, and then they take the remaining studies that they have, and they kind of compare them together, and they come up with a formulated review based on those quality studies. And so when you are looking at your protein intake, this is something that you should be doing. You should, any study in general, you should really be looking for reviews, systemic reviews, versus just one-off. And so that's why I like systemic reviews, because they really give a good overview of all of the research that's out there. And so when I look at protein intake and protein requirements and who needs, you know, X amount of protein, a systemic review is what I look at, and I actually linked a systemic review in the blog. So back to why protein really grinds my gears is because for some reason people are really, really concerned about protein today, and quite honestly, I think that there's bigger things that we should be concerned about. Excuse me, Beauregard. No, I'm doing something here. So rude. There's bigger things that we should be concerned about. You know, we should be concerned about how much sugar somebody's taking in. Are they taking not enough sugar or too much sugar, instead of how much protein somebody's taking in? Because quite honestly, I don't run into a lot of protein deficiencies in my office. Now, I will see cases where people aren't really absorbing the protein that they're taking in, and that comes in with digestive issues and gut malabsorption problems. But sometimes I see people that have way too much protein in it, and that's taxing to the body because it goes through the urea nitrogen cycle in the body, and what it does is you're creating ammonia and nitrogen every time you're breaking down proteins in the body. And so if you have too much protein, there's the potential that you could have too much, you know, ammonia flying around in the body, and ammonia obviously isn't very good, and our kidneys aren't able to filter it out at the high rate of ammonia, and so it causes you know, problems later on down the road. So with that being said, the recommended daily allowance for protein is 0.08 grams per kilogram of body weight. So I have seen on a variety of blogs and muscle building sites and all these things where, and I heard it too. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I used to follow this like way before I became a nutritionist, when I was working out and things like that. I seriously would try to get a gram per pound of body weight. So I would protein shake it up. I'm talking like 2 to 3 a day, so that I could get in like 140-ish grams of protein a day. Because, you know, that's what these sites told me, and that's what I thought was right. But realistically, we do not need that much protein. And so anyway, the systemic review, and this kind of ties it back in together, the systemic review shows that the gold standard, or that there is zero benefit, meaning you're not going to get any more gains with a Z, or you're not going to get increased muscle repair from any protein amount higher than 1.62 grams per kilogram of body weight. So that's kind of anything after that, your body's not utilizing. It's really just a waste of money. It's a waste of calories, and it's a waste of time. I like to err on the side of caution. I don't see weightlifters. I don't see, you know, people trying to become the next Arnold Schwarzenegger in my office. So I typically will err on the side of caution, and I will go anywhere between, if somebody's trying to build muscle, if they're actively trying to build muscle, or if they are in a state where they need increased protein, I will go anywhere from 1.25 grams per kilogram up to 1.5 grams per kilogram. And the 1.5 grams per kilogram is pretty rare. I typically hover around the 1.25 gram per kilogram. Most people, I like to see around 1. Sometimes I think the RDA is probably a little low. It is the minimum. It's what you need to kind of survive. But if you're really trying to have a nice physique, or if you're working out, if you're actively involved in a type of fitness regimen, I'll typically go around 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. And so for like me, 1 gram per kilogram of body weight is about 62 and some change, about 63-ish grams of protein a day. As a vegan, I have zero problems getting that much protein in a day because, like I said earlier, all plants have protein in it. But I would take that information and calculate what your protein needs are, because you can absolutely have too much protein in your body. So I would kind of, like I said, I would err on the side of, if you're trying to build muscle mass, I would calculate 1, and I would calculate 1.5 grams per kilogram. Give yourself a range to stick in. That way, if you're a little over one day, you're a little over next day, the body's going to balance it out, and it's perfectly fine. And we all have different protein needs. So the young and the old need more protein than, somebody that's 20, 30, or 40 years of age. So if you're a teen, you're going to need, or a kid or a teen, you're going to need a lot more protein than somebody that's 24. If you're 65 or 70, you're going to need more protein than somebody that's 40. So we have varying needs of protein throughout our life. If you have specific wasting conditions, if you recently had any type of gastric bypass, Roux-en-Y surgery, anything like that, you're going to need a higher protein intake. If you have kidney concerns, any type of staged kidney disease, or you have kidney stones, it's always good to reduce your protein intake. You can even go well below the RDA if you have an issue like that. People that are heavier tend to need a little bit more protein in their life, but we do it from an adjusted body weight. I would never, if somebody was obese, ask them to eat that much protein. And so we'll do it off of a calculated adjusted body weight. So protein's pretty tricky, just like, ratios of fats and carbs and things like that. But I would take a good look at how much protein you're eating. Do you really need that much protein? Or perhaps you're not eating enough. Maybe you really do need a little bit more protein. So Jackie asked, why does an older person need more protein? Because we tend to waste a little bit more muscle as we get older, meaning that our body kind of metabolizes it a little bit quicker. We're not eating as many calories as we age. Our metabolism slows down. And so we need to maintain a frame to support our structure as we age. And so the aging tend to need a little bit more protein. Not a lot, but they do need a little bit more protein than, say, that somebody that's 21 or 22. And then you have to take in any specific diseases or conditions. Somebody that has cancer is going to need a little bit more as well. Sorry, I have a nose that's tickling my hair. I have hair that's tickling my nose. Okay, so let me get off my soapbox here about protein. Anyway, so calculate it. You can read the systemic review out there, but it's all there on the blog. All right, so let's talk protein powder supplements. A lot of people will say, do I need a protein powder supplement? That's a good question. Most people will say, no, you don't actually need a protein powder. You can get plenty of protein in through your diet. It just depends on what you're striving for. I am now and always will be a food first gal. So if somebody is trying to increase their protein, I'm going to encourage to do that through food. But if we're on a calorie restricted diet, if we have gastric issues to where we're not really absorbing the foods that we're putting in, if we need a very specific type of supplement because we have an underlying disease or condition, there is a good chance that I may recommend you do a protein powder. I find that a lot of women do not eat breakfast, and that's perfectly okay. That's their prerogative. But if they're not getting enough calories through the day, I will recommend adding a smoothie in. Because it's quick, it's easy, it can be very nutrient dense, and I will typically have them add a scoop of protein to it. That way it can be a nice, well-rounded meal replacement. The kind of pros and cons of doing a protein over food is protein is very isolated. Yes, there are a bunch of supplements out there today that have the greens added to them and the prebiotics and the probiotics and all the vitamins and minerals added back to them. But in reality, at the end of the day, it's just a very isolated item. It's a supplement, right? So it's not, you can't out supplement a bad diet. A supplement is to add on to what you're already doing, not replace anything. So if I were to eat beans and rice, which are complementary proteins, gives me all the essential amino acids that I need. When I do that, I'm going to get a buttload of fiber. I'm going to get zinc. I'm going to get iron. I'm going to get my B vitamins. And plus I'm going to get, plants in the body. Whereas if I do just straight brown rice protein or, hemp seed protein or something like that, it's an isolated item. So I'm not getting all of the nutrients that I would get if I ate food versus eating the protein powder. So I would always say food first. If you can't do it through food, if something's going on, if you have low appetite, if I told you you should take a protein powder, then I would definitely add in a protein powder. So let's talk whey. This is another thing that I see often. I hear that whey, when it comes to protein, whey protein is the gold standard. I went to go put my foot on something and I missed it and fell. You ever do that when you're walking down the stairs? You think there's a step there and there's not. You do that little weird thing. Anyway, so whey is the gold standard from what people say. But is it really? Is it really the absolute best protein that you can get out there on the market? Well, I wanted to know the answer to this too. So I went diving and I looked for some systemic reviews like we talked about earlier. So a specific systemic review looked at 13 clinical trials. They had to throw out a whole bunch that weren't good. And what they found was it was really half and half. So the jury's still out on whether whey is amazing. Some studies showed that it absorbed very well in the body. Some studies showed that that didn't absorb that great. And what I think is the underlying issue is that everybody's different. If you're lactose intolerant, you're not going to absorb whey very well. If you've got digestive problems, you're not going to absorb whey very well. So I think there's a lot of factors that go into whether your body's going to really absorb whey. So with that said, whey is not the gold standard when it comes to protein. There are plenty of other options out there that absorb just fine in the body. You can utilize as much as you can. And it really comes down to absorption. If you're not going to absorb what you put in your body, it's kind of wasted effort at that point. So yes, whey is absorbed well, but it doesn't typically cross over to growth or usability or muscle recovery. So it's not amazing. When we talk about soy protein or protein and absorption, soy is actually a really decent rival to whey. So if you are plant-based, even if you're not plant-based, you could be lactose intolerant and you can't do whey. Soy protein is actually a really good protein that absorbs really well in the body for most people. Soy is not bad. I hear this a lot. We should avoid soy. Soy is not good. Soy is going to give me man boobs. Soy is going to raise my estrogen. What soy does when we break it down in the body is it binds to estrogen sites. It doesn't create more estrogen. It's phytoestrogenic, which means it acts as an estrogen, but it doesn't cause us to create more estrogen in the body. And what they found was that because soy binds to the Estrogen sites the good estrogen in the body. It helps to flush bad estrogen from the body. And so we have a ratio. We're all about ratios. You have a good and a bad ratio, or a ratio for good and bad estrogen. You definitely want a lower ratio, meaning more good to bad. But realistically, most people have, more bad than good. So soy is not bad. I'll get off my soapbox for that. Soy is not horrendous, and I linked a good study for you guys in the blog is there as well. So whey is not the gold standard. Soy is good. Let's talk about actual protein supplements. I'm way interested. That's pretty funny, Jackie. Man, I should have put that in my blog. It's pretty funny. Okay, so let's talk about what to look for in a protein powder. So whatever you like to use, whatever you have, again, price tag does not equal amazing protein. You should be picking it up, you should be flipping it over, and you should be looking at a couple of things. First place you should look is the ingredients. Anytime you pick up anything, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a box of crackers, a loaf of bread, cupcake mix. I don't care. You should always pick it up, flip it over, and look at the ingredients. Don't pay attention to the, nutrition fact label. Super important. Most people don't know how to decipher it. So look at the ingredients. Always look at the ingredients. So whatever protein calls your name when you're standing there at the aisle, whatever marketing, looks great to you, or whether the canister has your favorite color on it, whatever it is, pick it up, turn it around, start reading the ingredients. And the reason being is because there are a lot of ingredients in protein today that they're trying to do it for good reason. But these things don't cross over to increase health benefits. Some of them actually create problems within people. One of the biggest one is prebiotics. And so people will add in prebiotics. If you're consuming plenty of fiber in your diet, if you're consuming, artichokes or garlic and onion, all of these great things that help feed the gut flora, those are prebiotics. But a lot of people can't tolerate them. Some people with digestive issues, if you've got IBS or IBD, prebiotics is a huge no-no. It's going to cause extreme gas, bloating, constipation, and or diarrhea. So prebiotics, you definitely want to stay away from any protein that has added prebiotics in it. If you have any type of gut issue, I would stay away from prebiotics in your protein powder. Let's see. The next thing I see in a lot of protein powders is preservatives. A lot of preservatives. Some teams, it's a new word. Sometimes they're not readily identifiable, meaning you can't really pick them out super quick. Or sometimes they're pretty well hidden on the ingredient label. So you should always look under, some people they'll list ingredients and then they'll have a space and then they'll list other ingredients. And so they do that for a reason. They do that for marketing purposes. So they're listing the stuff like they're supposed to, but if you're in a hurry or you're looking at something and you pick it up and you see ingredients, okay, looks great. You see a break, you assume that's just mumbo jumbo under it, which most of the time it is. You say, looks great, put it in your cart and head off. But in the other ingredient section, they're going to list the different preservatives that they're using in there. So always make sure that you read the ingredients and you look for any other ingredients. So look for that space and then the list of other ingredients as well. I have actually been caught a time or two not paying attention as well. So we're all susceptible to it. Maltodextrin. This is definitely an ingredient to look out for. And I would be very careful about purchasing anything with maltodextrin in it. It is an ingredient that is typically made from corn or wheat. Now, there are some new emerging types of maltodextrin out there. There's one that's made from tapioca. And the reason they do that is because people with gut issues typically have to stay away from wheat and corn. And so people with digestive problems are not purchasing these products with maltodextrin. And so they got a little savvy on that and somebody created a tapioca maltodextrin. Basically, oh, it can also be made from potato starch as well. It's used as a filler. That's all it is. So it's just to make it look like there's more product in there. It's to make it look a little fluffier. You know, if you've ever gotten a bag of chips and 75% of it is air, you know, that's because, you know, there's just not that many chips in the bag. But what they'll do with protein and they'll do with other powdered type substances is they will add filler to it. And the reason they do that is so we feel like we're getting more bang for our buck. You're still getting the same amount at the end of the day, whether there's maltodextrin filler in it or not. It's just because we, you know, whatever goes on in our brain, we look at the things that look like they're going to give us more. Even if we compare, you know, serving size on this to serving size on that, the scoop is smaller on this guy, but at the end of the day, we're getting the same amount of protein. We're probably going to go for the one with the bigger scoop because we think we're getting more nutrients or more protein or whatever. So all maltodextrin is a filler. It can cause a blood sugar spike. If it's made out of wheat and somebody is gluten intolerant or has celiac disease, they will have a flare from that maltodextrin. If somebody's sensitive to corn, and it's made from maltodextrin, there's an indication, or there's a potential chance that they could have a problem with that maltodextrin. The problem is that most products will not state where that maltodextrin comes from. Now, if it's a gut-friendly product, they're probably going to state, ooh, potato starch or tapioca. Or if it is a certified gluten-free product, it will say certified gluten-free, but it will still list maltodextrin. You just don't know, okay, did it come from potato starch, corn, or tapioca? You just know that it didn't come from wheat. So I would stay away from maltodextrin. It's just a filler. You're not paying anything, you know, you're not getting any additional benefit from it. It's clearly psychological to make us think that we're getting more, but it can have issues can create problems for people that have gut issues. And then xanthan gum is another one. So really any type of gum. So there's a lot of gums out there. There's xanthan gum, there's carrageenan, that's a gum, there's gellan gum, guar gum. So really any type of gum. And you'll see these on a lot of products, and you'll really see them on liquid type products, but you will see them on powdered supplements as well. People with digestive issues, they're back. Let's see if they brought me an ice cream. I bet they didn't. Meanies. So again, digestive issues, anybody with digestive problems is going to have problems with any of those gums. It can cause a flare-up. It can cause inflammation in the small intestine, and then we're not going to absorb the protein that we're taking in. And so what it is it's just a binder. So you will see, if you've ever made almond milk or anything like that, Beauregard, I'm talking here. If you've ever made any type of like almond milk or oat milk or anything like that at home, made it yourself, put it in the fridge, you'll notice some separation. Did you bring me back some ice cream? Where's my ice cream? I told you they were going to bring me any. I knew it.
I dropped it.
Think for yourself first. So if you've ever made like a nut milk or an almond milk or oat milk or anything like that at home, you make it, you put it in the fridge, and you're going to notice some separation. The water is going to separate from the fats in the nuts. Best way to relieve that is right before you drink it, give it a good shake, let them swirl around again, and then you consume it. But what people that make these products do, because they want it to be easy for people, they don't want people to have to shake the container before they pour their almond milk, is they will add these binders so that the fats in the water don't separate in the containers. And so that's what these gums do. And you will find them in powders, not very often, but any type of liquid protein supplement, like if you ever gone into a store and you bought, grabbed a quick protein shake, a muscle milk or whatever, and then you could drink it, those are likely going to have binders in them. Jackie wants to know where her ice cream is too. Man, right? Jackie's mean. So mean. Okay. So before I tell you my protein supplement recommendations, let's just do a quick recap. Calculate your own protein intake requirements. 0.08 grams per kilogram is the recommended daily allowance. I typically err on the side of caution and go for 1 to 1.25 grams per kilogram of body weight. Anything over 1.62 grams per kilogram, you do not utilize in the body. So it's just wasted money on your part. Protein powder will never take the place of food because protein is an isolated item. In food, you're going to get all the other nutrients and fibers and good quality things like that. So food first, then protein supplement. Not to say anything bad. I use protein powders on occasion, but just try to do it food first if you can, unless your friendly neighborhood nutritionist has told you that you should take protein powder. Is whey as good as they say? No, it ain't. Or no way. No way. So Systemic Review looked at 13 clinical trials. It was about half and half. Soy rivals it. Soy is really good, absorbed well in the body. No, it's not going to give you man boobs. No, it's not going to increase your estrogen in the body. And there is a study linked in there for that. And look for maltodextrin, stay away from prebiotics, and try to get protein powders without gums. So with that said, here are the brands that I recommend, and I will give you the reasons why I like them and why I do not like them. So first up is Sun Warrior brand. I like the Classic Plus, or I like the Warrior blend. I don't like the regular one because it is one protein. And this is a plant-based protein. We typically need a nice blends because some proteins don't absorb as well in the body as other plant proteins. And so when we have the blends, they tend to work a little bit better. And so the Sun Warrior brand Classic Plus and Warrior blend have blends in them. The downside is that they both contain guar gum. It's a hard thing to get away from. If you look at almost any product in your kitchen, it's going to have gum in it, some sort of gum in it. And then they contain stevia. Ugh. Nothing wrong with stevia. I just think it's like disgusting. It's just super gross. And I can taste immediately when something has stevia in it. So if you don't mind stevia, that's the sweetener that they use in their chocolate and their vanilla, but they also offer a plain version, so you could go for that. Another plant-based option is the Vega brand. That one contains a xanthan gum, so another gum, and those also contain stevia, and they don't really have a plain, or finding a plain is difficult. So in Vega, you really have to look at the different ones. A lot of them have prebiotics in it. So pick it up, flip it around, and read the ingredients and make sure that you're staying away from the ones with the prebiotics. Naked brand. So Naked brand is actually a really good one. It is a little pricier, but the reason I like it is it is one ingredient. There are no binders, there's no maltodextrin, there's no gums, there's nothing in it. You can get an egg, whey, pea, and brown rice. And then I think there's another one that's like a combination. It's got like maximum gains or something. So anyway, if you get Naked whey, the only ingredient in that product is whey. If you get Naked brown rice, the only product in that is brown rice. And you get the picture. And they have Naked egg and they have Naked pea as well. So there's literally the only one ingredient. There's no gums, there's no fillers, there's none of that. So I do like that brand for that option. And I also like because they have omnivore friendly and vegan friendly options. Next one would be Garden of Life, the raw organic protein. This would probably be my go-to plant protein that I like because there's no stevia in it, which I like. There's also no gums in it, and it does have a nice mix of different plant proteins. So that's a good one. For my omnivores, my go-to protein for them is, so all of my clients that are omnivores, and primarily because I specialize in digestive issues, it's called Vital Proteins Collagen Peptides. It's in a light blue container, and the reason that I like this, it is pretty simple. It's collagen, so it's made from animal. I like this because collagen really helps to restore the gut lining. It helps with healing of the body. I obviously do not use this with my vegan clients. I do not use this myself. I have never used the product, so I don't even know how it tastes. But based on client feedback, they all think it's perfectly fine. It mixes well in hot or cold drinks. It doesn't have a flavor. And so I have some clients that put it in coffee, mix it, and drink their coffee that way. So it's good for the gut. It helps cell turnover in the lining of the digestive tract. The downside is it's not vegan, which makes me sad. But, it is what it is. So for my go-to plant protein would be Garden of Life, the raw organic protein plain. That's the one I like. And then for my omnivore clients, I like Vital Proteins collagen peptides. Comes in a light blue container. And I think it's a fairly small serving size. However, I want to say it's like 17 grams of protein per serving, which is pretty good. Let's see. So, and then one that I didn't mention earlier, and only because I happened to I was researching protein powders for another project, and I came across this protein. So soy is really absorbed well in the body, but it's hard to find a clean soy protein. However, my journeys throughout the internet the other day took me to a soy protein made by Bob's Red Mill. I've never tried it, and it's going to be my next protein that I try because I'm interested in how it tastes and how it mixes and things like that. Because soy, obviously, for vegans or plant-based, soy is going to be a good protein unless you're soy sensitive to add in because it absorbs really well. It absorbs better than brown rice. It absorbs better than beans and pea and hemp and those sorts of things. So soy is good as far as absorbability in the body. But like I said, it's hard to find a clean one. But I found that Bob's Red Mill actually makes a soy protein, and that's it. It's just soy protein. There's no gums, there's no binders, there's no fillers, nothing like that. So that is going to be my next one that I am going to try because I'm interested in how it tastes. So let me just make sure I didn't leave anything out here. I think that's it. Yeah. Actually, I repeated myself in this blog. I'm going to have to fix that. It's like I typed a paragraph twice. Anyway, so in the blog, I also gave a recipe that I often give out to my clients. It's my green protein smoothie recipe. I give this to people to try to increase their nutrient intake. I have clients that, don't want to consume vegetables. They don't like them. Maybe they're turned off by them, or maybe they have a hard time figuring out how to include them into their diet. And so we will talk green protein smoothies. And so you use about 8 to 10 ounces of unsweetened plant milk or water. You can use water, it's perfectly fine. And then the next ingredient that I like to add is 2 huge handfuls of spinach. And when I say handfuls, I'm not talking, dainty handfuls. I want like monster handfuls of spinach in there. It's going to give you about 2 cups, which is 2 servings of veg right there in your morning smoothie. And then I like to add on a top of green superfoods just to really make sure that we're getting enough greens in our diet. And then 2 tablespoons of ground flax, or you can do 2 tablespoons of your favorite nut butter. You could do 2 tablespoons of chia seed, whatever you want, as long as it's high fiber and high fat. So it's going to give you the healthy fats, and it's really going to give you the fiber, which is important. So that's kind of why I prefer the ground flax. Half a banana, and then you can do 1/2 cup to 1 cup of frozen berries, any kind of berry you like. And I don't really measure them out. I just kind of tip the bag until I am happy with what I see there. And then you add your protein of choice, blend it up, and then you drink it. You're going to end up with probably 18 to 20 ounces of drink to mix. Sometimes it comes out a little thicker than I like, so I'll top mine off with about 2 ounces of water just to thin it out, and that's just my preference because I have a texture issue. But you'll be surprised what that banana does for those greens. Most people are afraid to try it because there's a lot of greens in it, but trust me, that banana does wonders. It will mask the taste of the green. You won't even know it's in there. You will have a green smoothie, but it will not taste green. You're going to taste a lot of the berries. You're going to taste a lot of the banana, and you just got 3 servings of greens just in that smoothie. So the recipe is on the blog. I encourage you to give it a go. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Yes. So Jeff said, or that sounds weird to me. We'll call him LT. So LT said, visited Bob's Red Mill in Portland, Oregon. They seem to be very natural and health-based company. Yeah, so I like Bob's Red Mill. Some of their products are a little pricey, but they are typically a really good company. So that's why I'm super interested in trying this protein powder. So LT here, the reason I call him that is one of my first duty assignments way back in the late 90s. I was stationed at, I call it Kadena. Some people want to call it Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. And he was one of the lieutenants that was there. And so we lovingly call lieutenants LT. And so it always seems weird to say his name because he has been and always will be known as LT to me. So there's that. So you get 2 fun stories tonight. Woohoo! Okay. So I don't see any other questions. If you are watching this after the fact, have a read of the blog, watch the talk, and then you can post your questions below, and I will come through and answer them as I see people comment on them. And then let me know if you've got an awesome if you have a protein powder that you like, one that you use, one that I didn't talk about that you think is really good and maybe you want my take on it, go ahead and post it below. I will pull up the ingredients and I will give you my 100% honest take on what I feel about that protein powder. If nothing else, I'm always honest. So with that, health starts from within. You have a good night, guys, and I will see you next Tuesday when we talk about my favorite supplements. Bye.